So, today's tutorial is going to be about text editing. Right now, I have an entire finished threshold spread open. And as you can see, there are 3 pieces of poetry on this spread. First, we're going to look at just one literary piece. There's a title, there's the actual piece, and there's the byline. You will get the title and the piece and the byline from just a normal .doc file. But in order to get it into InDesign, all you have to do is copy, paste. Control-C onto from the .doc and then Control-V into the InDesign template. Then you have to separately Control-C, Control-V the title and separately put in the byline. After that, you can manipulate what are known as text boxes. Generally, we like to have 3 separate text boxes that constitute one piece. One text box for the title, one text box for the byline, and one text box for the actual copy or piece. There are many things you can do with text. You can select it, you can highlight some of it, you can type in it, you can select it and delete, and all the things you can do with a normal word processor. You can change its font here in the top left corner, after a bit of waiting, of course, like so. And you can change its style. The style depends on which exact font you've picked. For example, Seraphim only comes in regular style. You can change the font size with this selector. And there are some more obscure things you can change. Let's go through some of them one by one. This is called the leading editor. What it does is it changes the spaces between lines. Right now it's 13.5. If I make it bigger, you will notice that the space between the lines of words increases. And likewise, if I make it smaller, vice versa. Next, there are these 6 icons. The first icon turns everything all caps. Pretty useful. The second icon turns things into superscripts, which we generally do not use, but sometimes if you have to write math formulas for some reason, put that in. The next one turns them into underlines. The next one turns it into small caps, which is what you want. You don't want big caps, you want small caps generally. Especially when we are making copy for prose pieces. The rule of formatting is that the first line is always small caps. Not big caps, I can tell. Then, the next thing is subscript, which serves the same function as superscript. Then there is strike through, which makes a line. You can select multiple at the same time and make some sort of strange abomination of text. Next, there are these. I don't exactly know what this does, and you can't really modify it. Unless if you... yes. Okay, this changes the individual space between letters. This changes kerning. Kerning also changes the individual space between letters. It's sort of subtle. We like to use the kerning modifier in order to modify how long a piece of prose is, usually. Because, like, a small change is generally flies by pretty well, but, don't get crazy with it if a piece is too big or too small. It's our job to make sure that they sort of fit in the first place. Watch this. -1. Barely anything, but in a big prose piece, you can't notice it, but it, significantly tones down how much text it takes up on the spread. Then, we have this. This changes the height of the text. you really should not be using this unless if you are going crazy with design, which of course is nice. Just don't do it like randomly without me knowing, or else I'm going to get very annoyed. This likewise changes the width. This next one changes the elevation. For example, now it's elevated. Also, you know, these are sort of niche, but maybe one day you'll have to use this if you think it fits design or it fits copy. I'm sorry, copy means like general body text. So like when I say copy, I mean prose/poetry in this context. And then we have the final one, which is tilt angle. Tilt angle, unsurprisingly, okay, well it has to be between negative 85 and 85. Tilt angle tilts the text 10 degrees, negative 10 degrees, negative 10 degrees. See, like that. Generally, for fonts that do not have an italic form, we use tilt angle. But hopefully your on-design editors had the foresight to make the body font have an italic form, or else everyone would have to be using tilt angle, and that would become very annoying very quickly. Just know that if you want to make something italic, generally look in here. Likewise, if you want to make something bold, generally look in here. If you want to do like basic text operations, like in Microsoft Word, make things bold, make things italic, look in here first. And if you can't find italic, change the tilt angle, ask us what the number is. Sometimes we'll make it up on the spot. And if you can't make it bold, you have to go into stroke. Normally stroke isn't right there on the right window. You have to go into window, stroke, which is right there, and then it'll appear. Click on that, click on tune the weight up. So for example, 1 point, look at how big that is. And yeah, like tune it down to like 0.05. And that makes it a 0.1. Fiddle around with it. Ask the art editor for their opinion. If you want to make something bold manually, you have to do that. Hopefully, once again, your on-design editor might have the foresight to put in a bold, choose a font with a bold setting for the body. We usually have rules for which specific fonts you can use for titles. We have a rule for which font is the main body font. We have a rule for the exact size and leading that we want you to use, and so on. Now this is the byline. This is the third body of text. The byline basically is just the name of the author of the piece, along with an M dash. The M dash you create with Shift-Control-5, and it's there. Shift-Control-5. Alt-5. Sorry, Shift-Alt-Dash. Shift-Alt-Dash. Just fiddle around with the Shift and the Alt and the Control keys and press dash, and eventually, instead of just a dinky little dash, you got a mildly longer dash. That's called an M dash. It's what we normally use for special situations. And that special situation in this case is the byline. We always use M dashes for bylines. Do not let me catch you, or any art editor, or any editor, catch you use normal dashes for bylines. Then it's the name. We also have a font style here. It's generally just a body font again. Now, let's say you want to do more fancy stuff to text. What if, instead of just a normal, boring little box, you want to make a text circle? That's easy. All you have to do is make a circle shape. We discussed how to make shapes in a previous video. But, like right there, I made a circle. So let's say I want to start typing into the circle. That's easy. All I have to do is go into the Type tool, click inside the circle, start typing. And voila! We are typing in a circle. can do this for all shapes. You can do this for any n-sided polygon where n is greater than or equal to 3. We can do this in any weirdly made blob we get with the pencil tool. And so on. What if you want to type on a curved line? That's easy as well. Draw a curved line. Then instead of clicking on the text tool, you do type on a path tool. And then you can start typing on a path. Nice. One big thing you want to remember is that when you are typing, you may notice, let me just get it up again, you may notice some strange hyphenation up here. Like here, this is called hyphenation. Here at Threshold, we do not support hyphenation. What you want to do is turn it off. So select the text that has hyphenation and then turn it off. Normally, hyphenation is the automatic setting for text, which is annoying. So in order to remedy that, if your art editor hasn't already done it, in the template, you select the text tool, you go into the paragraph section here, and then you click uncheck the hyphenate box, and now when you type, hyphenation will hopefully not appear anymore. Smiley face. Now, let's go more in depth into the paragraph section. We looked into the normal section here, well, up to here. Now let's go into the paragraph section. The paragraph section contains things about paragraph formatting. For example, it can tell you which way things are aligned. It can tell you the indent, the paragraph indent, not the tab indent. It can tell you the tab indent, paragraph indent, tab indent. Likewise, you can do this from the left side. A niche operation. You can do something weird with this. I don't understand what this does. Can do something nice with this, this. You can make your first letter very large, and it'll be cool. You can make your first few words very strange. I don't quite understand what these do. I'm sorry. And of course you can turn off hyphenation. Also, especially for when you're creating prose pieces, you can make columns with one text box and not link them together like Jason tells you. Shh, don't touch Jason said that. For example, you can make 3 columns, 2 columns, 1 column. You can change the space they are in between each other. Generally, we keep them somewhere around here. Finally, let's talk about text wrapping. Let's say we have a circle and we want the text to go around the circle instead of go through it. You have to click on the circle and then you have to look up here in the tool menu. There are 4 settings. There's the one you have right now, which is no text wrap, and then there are 4 more. Wrap around bounding box, which just wraps around an boring box. Wrap tight, which wraps around the actual shape. It's kind of hard to see with this circle, but there is a difference, like here, see. And then wrap up and down, which nobody ever uses. That's right. Instead of just clicking on the text and go text wrap, you now have to individually click on every single object you want to text wrap around, which can be annoying sometimes, but it's a rewarding process to make pretty spreads, and that's what we're here for. We're here for pretty spreads. Also, if you have a really complicated thing, you might want to have something ignore text wrap. Simply click on the text box, right click, go into text frame options, or Control B, and you will see a lot of other more advanced things. Now, I'm not quite sure what everything does here, but I know definitely that you can make text ignore text wrap here. You can change the number of columns, do a lot of very nice, probably good specific stuff here, but you'd have to explore because I'm not as familiar as I'd like to be in that area. Also, if you want your text to have a background, like any circle or anything, if you want it to have a background that sort of goes away from the text instead of tightly hugging it, like so. Like if I wanted a red line, I'm modifying the stroke here from the shape making tutorial. All the same concepts apply. Sorry, I pressed the wrong shortcut there. Let's just cancel this. You don't want it to hug as tightly. Don't do this, okay? Do not fiddle around with it in this manner because it gets very annoying. What you have to do is go into text frame options, which I just did with Control B there, and do insert spacing. And let's say you want 0p6 spacing. There. Now you have your own already automatically perfectly centered, so you don't have to worry about having the left side be too wide and the right side being too thin. You have your perfectly centered spacing already inserted into your text box, which is amazing. Obviously you can do this for rectangles and any other general shape as well for text. Also, you can add colored backgrounds to text by clicking on the text box and then that. And then maybe you want to go here and have ignore text wrap and then have it ignore spacing and then this. And then have it have like this weird maroon. And you're good. You're good. See? Look at how easy that was. You didn't have to fiddle around with 15 different boxes. You didn't have to... many other inefficient things that I've been seeing. Don't do those things. Please do this. Also, finally, let's talk actual text box manipulation. You can move around the text box nodes any way you want, just as long as you make sure that there is no red plus square thingy. Don't actually click on the red plus square thingy when you see it. What it's telling you is that there's too much text to fit into this text box, which is a common error you will see if you set up a text box for pros and then you copy paste into it and it's overflowing, or if you set up a small text box and then copy paste a particularly long poem into it. What you do is sort of fiddle around first, or you can also double click the node. Double click any one of these nodes and it will sort of do a strange and intuitive stretch. Might not be intuitive for you, but hopefully you'll get a feeling. Also, if you don't want text boxes to overflow everywhere and be too large to handle, like this, like this, oh yes, I love how this text box is here. Let's go work in the poem. Wait, I can't click on the poem. What's happening? Oh, I'm in this text box again. All you have to do, same thing, double click on the node, and it will shrink it down into the most optimal rectangle size for you. Next, let's say you want to go really into the text styles, and it's kind of annoying reading through the backgrounds and whatever, even though it shouldn't be if you're designing properly. What you can do is press Control Y and it will pull up a separate window where you can type and do anything you want. You can still change all the font styles from here. You can still change the tabs, the indents, the reader entry points, what they're called in the business, this setting here, making one letter particularly large. copy pasting, big stuff, little stuff, and then after you click close, it will modify the actual text box in the file. If there are any other questions, please ask me. This definitely does not mean you are not allowed to ask me any of these questions anymore. Definitely come up and ask your local art editor if you have any questions about text editing. Thank you for listening. This has been Text Editing with Threshold. Happy designing.